the information about your collaborators and the details of your next target.
This is the future of Iran. See why I told you to save your film? This is incredible.
My part is taking pictures, not choosing sides.
Listen, you may not realize it, but you're gonna have to pick a side, okay? You may not want to, but it's gonna happen.
For the side that wants to win.
Win? Don't do this, Reza.
Reza, they'll take you to Evi. Where is Ali? This is not a game.
I don't trust this punk with his camera.
Don't do this, Reza. Reza, take care of him.
Imprisoned and executed for our beliefs. Do you still have the rolls of film from the pictures you took today?
I don't have to justify my actions to you. Get him a new ID.
Look up, I'm just a photographer, that's all.
You and your stupid camera.
I'm your family, Hussein.
Get up!
Who did this to me?
You know what to do, Reza John.
It's about survival in this country, Batcha. Every detail, Reza.
We're always on the lookout for interesting and new games, and when these games came across the wires, I was really interested in them because they're just different from what you always see. You see a lot of sequels and things like that, so whenever we see something new, something interesting, I'm really interested in this. And when I saw this one, it was really interesting because, you know, sometimes in America you don't always get to see, you know, things that are historical. And this game that we're looking at today, 1979 Revolution, Black Friday, that was really interesting because in America we really don't know a lot about the Iranian Revolution of 1979. I mean, a lot of us don't even really know about what's going on in the Middle East today. I mean, we watched a little bit on CNN. A lot of us just tuned out after many years. So I mean, just something about that, especially when you read about how it's historically accurate and stuff like that. But of course, we're also talking about the score, which our guest today, Nima Fakhara, did today. Thanks for coming and joining us today on the show.
For sure. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate making the time.
So, as far as just doing, composing in general, how did you come to that? I was looking at your IMDb page, and you've done a lot of work. You've worked with film and things like that. When people look at like video games, when people have that passion, I mean, that's something that just it comes out of you. So you dive into it, whether it's writing, film, music. How did you come to that?
Well, as far as video game is concerned, I'm a huge gamer myself. I've been around the block since the Atari and the Omega and all those kind of games. I've been around. I've been around video games pretty much my whole entire life. And have always been a gamer myself.
Oh, cool.
And it was one of those things that I've always wanted to be involved with. I had the chance to work on Resident Evil, one of the things that pretty much scared the crap out of me when I used to play it on a PC. And then basically 1979 was another one kind of thing. I was very interested in it. I called up Naveed about maybe 3 years ago, actually about 3.5 years ago, when he was actually doing interviews and actually when he was developing the project. And then one thing led to another. That basically come to and just kind of made it happen. As far as the music in general is concerned, I've been playing Persian classical music since I was 5 years old.
Wow.
I started playing the santur, which is kind of your equivalent of a dulcimer, if you will. And for those of you that kind of don't know what a dulcimer is, basically if you take it inside of a piano and with the hammers of the actual kind of when it hits the keys, if you take that out and then actually you physically play the hammers yourself, that's what a dulcimer is. So I played basically my training, my original training was in Persian classical music. Then moved to DC, Washington DC, and then I got introduced and kind of got familiarized with orchestral music. Long story short, moved to LA. Then I started working on film and television and stuff like that.
So as far as which Resident Evil were you working on?
Resident Evil Revelation 2.
Ah, nice.
I did, yeah, I did. I was involved in that project, and I did pretty much most of the stuff that I did for that project was to kind of do a lot of rearrangements, the main titles, and a lot of those kind of stuff. Basically, kind of I produced a score. I created a lot of custom instruments for that project. I built a lot of. Basically, we try to kind of create a new language for the project. So that's where I came in and kind of did stuff for it.
So for people that may not understand, one of the things that we try to do, and this for me too, because this is a project of understanding. I like to admit the things that I don't know. I don't want to come in and be like, oh, I think I understand this. No, it's like we don't understand. So a lot of people, they'll play a game and they'll say, oh, I like this song, or I like the way this level music sounds, and they may not understand the difference between someone putting in just someone singing a song or a music. Can you explain when someone scores a game what that actually means? What are they listening to? The feeling that goes into that.
Sure. Basically, what you're listening to is the actual music that is created, the background music, if you will. As far as a video game is concerned, it's a little bit different than your usual film scoring. For films, basically, we have a visual as you and I are talking. Someone could actually go in and actually start scoring this conversation in a sense. As far as a video game is concerned, it's a little bit different. It's just like your way of when you actually look at the behind the scenes on an animation movie. We are looking at basically kind of just little tiny blocks of stuff moving around. And then with a video game, the way it's different is that you're actually I'm technically scoring scenarios versus fleshed out timelines. Especially for this video game 1979, I had to score against a script. So I had the script in my hand and I had to actually kind of see what I needed to do for it, and then wrote a chunk of music, and then we took that pieces of music and then actually kind of just manipulated it based on the finished product as you see nowadays. The issue that we had with 1979 was very much a video game issue. As the engine gets developed and as the animation gets better and better, the storyline changes a little bit. So we had to kind of just be able to just jump on stuff and be able to kind of just be like, all right, so the story has changed a little bit. How do we change the music in order for it to fit better? There you go.
So I was looking over like the reviews of 1979 Revolution Black Friday, and a lot of people said, like it was positive, and like I said, people were talking about how it had, it was historically accurate. They liked how the story was told. A lot of times people can be either happy when it's compared to a game, like they're saying it had a comparison to Telltale, like how
Sure.
the storytelling. Some people don't like that. Depends. But people said, they liked it. I haven't got to play it myself. I watched some of the trailers and stuff, and it looks really cool. Now, what brought you to the project? I did see in the bio that you were born in Tehran, but of course, 1983. So you're a young guy. Of course, this happened. You started 1978, 1979 Revolution. Did that have part of it? Just knowing the history, being born in Iran, things like that.
Sure. I mean, the reason I really wanted to work on the project was because I'm originally Iranian, and when I first heard about the project, the interesting part about it is that being a Persian classical musician, especially in a very very young age, when I was actually kind of performing and actually being taught by these masters of kind of Persian classical music, if you will, these teachers of mine have had their stories to tell at all times. So I've grown up with people telling me these kind of if you will, telltale stories of kind of just telling me different scenarios, different things that happen on the streets. So when I heard about 1979, I wanted to be able to, as I've worked on films and video games before that, I wanted to be involved in the project in order for me to be able to tell my story. And what drew me to the game was to possibly have the chance of scoring a project that actually felt very dear to me, and to be able to be involved in it in a very proud way of kind of saying, all right, this is a project that I'm involved with, and it tells my kind of, if you will, my people's kind of story, and it is a political, if you will, there is political aspects to it. Some people think it is political. It is, if whatever you want to take it with a grain of rice. It's just what it is. It's basically, it is a story that you're seeing. There is a lot. There's absolutely everything is accurate to everything that you're seeing. There's speeches that you'll encounter. Even the graffiti on the walls are absolutely accurate. Most all the pictures are kind of archival stuff. So it's literally telling the story of those 4 or 5 days of what happened during Black Friday. So that basically kind of excited me, and it being kind of a sort of, it could be treated as an educational standpoint as well. It was interesting to be a part of it and kind of learn something myself as well.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because in some of the reviews, you can get it right now. It is out. It's on Project Steam Greenlight, so you can go pick it up, and you should, because some of the reviews they talked about, obviously, if you don't know a lot about the game, you don't know a lot about the history, in the game it does, teach you. Like, you play as the photographer, and he was away in Germany. He comes back, and what's good about that narrative is, since he's returning, the game allows you to learn about what's been going on while you're gone.
Sure.
And that allows the player who, if they don't know what's going on, you're kind of learning. So it's not preachy, but you're allowed to learn. And players said that was good because you're able to get a sense of what's going on, but it's not like it's being dumped on you.
For sure.
Overall, when you saw how it was laid out, the story, how it shows what was going on, would you say overall it was representative enough? And would you say, you know how gamers can be? Obviously, there's going to be people who are just see something like that and be turned off. I mean, obviously,
Sure.
being in the gaming world, would you say that, considering the audience that may absorb it, would you say that it was representative enough to tell the story?
Oh, absolutely. I think, I mean, I know for a fact Naveed did a lot of research on this project, and talked to many, many, many people in order for him to be able to tell it as accurately as possible. He is a little older than me, so he kind of was kind of, he knows the story a little bit better. But what kind of excites me about the project, it tells multiple stories. So as a player, or as a gamer, if you will, you get dropped in a very significant time period of Iran, and then you get to choose your destiny. Kind of, you get to choose what story you want to kind of tell. So it's absolutely accurate, and obviously every game has its haters. You could, to a most neutral kind of game of a sports game, Madden or FIFA, people could be Chelsea lovers, or people could be Manchester United lovers. So it's going to be that same exact kind of world, that people are going to hate it or love it. There's a flavor of ice cream for everyone. So, and this is kind of, if you will, it's just whatever kind of people could kind of take it as.
Yeah, and what I was reading in some of the press that was sent over is that, it's the story has been told as so controversial that it's even been banned in Iran. So I mean, it's like, man, I mean, obviously, you've heard about so many things being banned and things like that, but it's like, wow, I mean,
Sure.
it must be telling a story that's compelling, like.
I mean, it's the thing, the thing that I like to say, is that history is always his story. So who is it going to be told by? And whoever wants to kind of look at it in a certain standpoint, there's multiple stories to be told. There is different aspects of during that time that could be kind of talked about. We are just taking basically multiple stories and putting it in a very much of an accurate way. If people want to think that that is a wrong way of doing it, let them eat cake, if you will. But no. As far as it being banned in Iran, we are a little bit disappointed about it because we wanted it to be able to kind of people of Iran seeing it. But there are a lot of avenues. I mean, Iranian people, especially the young generation, have a lot of ways to be able to kind of get around these kind of situations, and for them to be able to get around these and for them to experience the game is absolutely very important to us, especially if hopefully as soon as we get to be able to go on iOS and everything like that, then we'll have a chance to kind of show it a little bit in a wider audience, and on console and everything like that. It'll be able to kind of tell our story a little bit wider.
Back to music. Can you tell us about
Sure.
building instruments specifically for this game?
Sure. I actually didn't build too many instruments for this project. I modified a lot of instruments. So basically, what I wanted to do, Navid and I, was to be able to kind of stay as accurate as possible to the times, to that late 70s, early 80s, and also kind of to the period and also to the location that we're dealing with. So for us, it was a very much of a challenge because, yet one, we're dealing with Iran and Tehran during that time. Two, we're dealing with an era that has a lot of disco in it, and three, we're telling a very much of a story, but we're telling it to a wide audience. We're not kind of trying to kind of pinpoint ourselves to one thing. So for us to come up with a vocabulary and for us to be able to kind of, if you will, a color palette for the project was very difficult. So we experimented a lot. We kind of moved genres, if you will. We kind of tried many different things. But then what the end product came in was that a very much of a throwback score to that time. I utilized a lot of techniques for recording that was done back at the day on on tape machines, a lot of hardware synths, a lot of hardware stuff that actually kind of was used at the time, and then manipulated a lot of Persian classical instruments, and only Persian classical instruments. I didn't try to kind of use another country's kind of. I didn't try to be a quote unquote Middle Eastern instruments. I used absolutely Iranian instruments on the project because it needed to be that. But then what became interesting on the score was that I replaced a lot of your Western sounding instruments with Iranian replicas. For example, if you hear a piano in the score, yes, there is a piano in the score. However, it is combined with the santur, as I was explaining earlier. It does come from the piano family, so it's basically the santur is kind of manipulated and kind of modified in a sense to be able to kind of sound similar to it. Another example would be the guitar. You hear a lot of guitars in this score. There's a lot of kind of spaghetti westerns, if you will, a lot of those slapback sounds, and yes, there is guitars, but also there's no guitars in there either. There's an instrument called the tar, which is very similar to the guitar. You play it the same way, and that's basically, you hear that throughout the score very significantly.
It's interesting because you would think that sometimes people would be like, "Oh, it doesn't matter," and then you hear all the time in film and TV where someone be like, "Hey, I know that instrument wasn't from that time period," and people really cared, and they really appreciate when someone goes and takes the time to make sure that it's authentic, it's from the time period, it's from the correct culture. So it's really
Yep.
great, especially when someone says, "Oh, this is an indie title," but they took the time and people did mention the voice acting, the writing. People did mention even the sound and the music was really good, and they took the time to make sure that it was well done in there. And I think that
Yeah,
overall it was done really great.
Yeah, I get really pissed when I watch a film because I come from the Middle Eastern world and I've studied ethnomusicology and music anthropology. I get really pissed when I actually watch a movie and it's like a completely different location and they're using another. It's like how many times can you use a duduk on a film? It's not has nothing to do with anything. So that's that. For us, it was extremely important in order for us to be able to do that. I mean, I even one of the suggestions that kind of Naveed and I kind of one of the plays or one of the, if you will, one of the avenues we took. Was utilizing an old Iranian song that was played during the time called Mara Bebus, which is basically it says "kiss me," or literal translation is "give me a kiss," if you will. And what it talks about destiny and how let's kind of go through our destiny and let's go forward and actually find our destiny. So it was good to be able to kind of do that and stay true to that idea very much.
Well, I really think that it's great that you have a game like this, which can hit a period of time where, especially Americans, may not have a lot of information on. But you have a game that was so well crafted with everything from top to bottom, where you can get gamers who can, be crazy, but can come together, and it has so many positive reviews on Steam Greenlight. It was well done, and I really think that anyone who hasn't had a chance to play it yet should go out to get it. It's out now. The game is 1979 Revolution Black Friday. Thanks, Nima, for coming on and talking to us today about it.
Thank you so much.